Do you remember the last time you got a new game console? But really remember it vividly. Sure, it wasn't all that long ago for me, but for me, that was my PlayStation 4. Even though I had a Nintendo Switch, I saved up my money for it for months, just so that I could play some great games, like the Ratchet and Clank reboot, the Spyro Reignited trilogy, which yes, it's on the Switch now, but it wasn't when I bought the PS4. But most of all, I wanted my PS4 for one game in particular. Marvel's Spider-Man. After hearing about a game that makes you feel like Spider-Man online, I was already interested in what this game had to offer. Not to mention that the developers, Insomniac Games, had already been a developer I was familiar with from hearing about other series they started, like Spyro the Dragon and Ratchet and Clank, which are both highly acclaimed series that should definitely be talked about way more. Not to mention that the next game in the Ratchet and Clank series, Rift Apart, will be the first game to be exclusive to the PS5. So after realizing that the same developers who made those amazing games were making this, I was sold. While working pretty hard to save up for this console, I would get plenty of people that I told about it tell me, "You already have a Nintendo Switch. Getting another console is just a waste of money." And in my mind, I didn't even consider the fact that they may be right. Eventually, I finally ordered my PS4 Slim and a few games. Until I actually got the console, I started to wonder, did I just waste hundreds of dollars that I worked really hard for? That thought bugged me for a whole 2 weeks until I finally got the console. It was then that I set up the console and started to play Spider-Man. After the opening cutscene, there was one of those really subtle transitions into gameplay, and it asked me to start swinging from buildings. From that first swing, I had a new thought. Why did I wait so long to play this game? So some of you may be wondering, how did Insomniac go from making their own original projects to working on Spider-Man? Well, it's actually a pretty simple story. Insomniac Games CEO Ted Price was asked by Sony if they were interested in working with Marvel. And Ted Price then brought this offer back to the other guys at the studio, expecting a no, but ended up getting a hell yeah. Instead of giving them a specific IP to work with, Marvel let Insomniac pick which character they wanted to make a game on. They chose Spider-Man pretty quickly. One of the reasons being that they love putting jokes into their games, and both Spider-Man and Peter Parker have a great sense of humor. So now that I got the history of the game out of the way, let's get started with the gameplay. Wow, I don't even know where to start here. There's just so much to talk about when it comes to gameplay, so I guess I'll just start with the most basic, and one of my favorite things in the game, just the act of swinging around New York City. When swinging, your weight is perfect. You don't feel like you're too heavy, but you also don't feel like you're flying around. Not to mention, the physics on it are on point. And unlike some of the past Spider-Man games, when you shoot out a web to swing, it doesn't just go straight into the sky to some building that isn't there. It actually connects to different buildings and has realistic physics to it. You can also use two hands to zip from point to point, so you don't have to swing in small areas. It's also slightly faster sometimes, which can really help with the Taskmaster Challenges. About halfway through the game, Taskmaster, the villain, shows up and gives you a variety of different challenges, like disarming bombs under a time limit, chasing after a drone as fast as possible, and trying to take the same path, combat challenges against waves of enemies trying to rack up large combos, and stealth sections where you try to take down a bunch of enemies without being seen by others. Which reminds me that I love the stealth sections in this game. They depend on you being smart and observing your surroundings to make sure no one will see you. If there's an enemy that's in a place you don't want him to be, just shoot a web near him to lure him away. Sadly, stealth sections aren't only for Spider-Man. MJ and Miles also get their own stealth sections, where you have to sneak around enemies and not get caught. These aren't great, but I can forgive it because they're short. You also get sections with Peter Parker out of his uniform, doing different science experiments at Dr. Octavius' lab. These sections aren't super amazing either, but these are even shorter than MJ and Miles' sections, and most of them are completely optional and not needed to complete the story. The story, by the way, is something I will not get into, because of how great it is, and I think anyone who plays this game should experience that for themselves. I also won't be getting into any boss battles because almost every single one is a spoiler. Now, To get back on track, I gotta talk about the combat. The combat in this game is definitely the best combat I've ever seen in any video game ever. It's insanely fluid and allows you to dodge and weave around enemies in between hits, allowing you to heavily improvise what your next move is going to be, by showing you little marks around your head that symbolize Peter's spidey sense tingling. If you dodge an attack at the last second, it even shoots a web at the enemy, temporarily stunning them. Which reminds me, webs and gadgets. You can also collect different types of webs to use on your enemies, like an explosive web, taser web, impact web, and a bunch of others that can be upgraded by completing challenges. The combat shines brightest in special sections known as Fisk Hideouts. These are combat trials where you fight wave after wave of enemies as well as you can. But these aren't the only things in the city. Oh, no. There are also map towers which help you map out the city when activated, a bunch of hidden backpacks that used to belong to Peter that have all kinds of Spider-Man references and references to Marvel as a whole. There are also Black Cat, aka Catwoman ripoff. Like, how have Marvel not been to court for this? And even times where you have to chase after a bunch of homeless man's pigeons to return them to him. This might sound like a bunch of busy work to pad out the game, but no, it is not. Not only does this all seem like things that Spider-Man would actually do if he was real, but they're also just fun. Not just them themselves, but getting to and from these side quests is fun by web swinging through the city. My favorite of these quests is definitely the landmark quests, where you have to go to a bunch of different landmarks throughout the special version of New York that has locations in our reality mixed with Marvel locations, and take pictures of them. This is not the only use that Peter's camera has. Oh, no. You can also take pictures and selfies with probably the best in-game camera I have ever seen. And yes, I will be posting any pics I took on my Instagram at BackToTheBreakGaming, by the way. You should also join the Discord if you want to chat. We love to chill with you. Okay. Back on topic. There's just a lot of stuff to do in this game, including collecting extra spider suits, which are also references to the comics and movies, each having a special move that you unlock by purchasing it. One of these suits is one that looks like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. It makes you feel like you're acting out a sort of Spider-Man 4, I guess. While I'm talking about suits, though, the main suit in this game is absolutely gorgeous. It's my favorite Spider-Man suit ever. It's so nice that I don't even feel the urge to switch to the other suits, even though they also look great. Apparently they designed the suit with special uses in mind. The blue areas are supposed to give a lot of flexibility, being similar to sports gear. The red parts, however, are much thicker to protect areas where Spider-Man might take a hit or scrape against buildings while swinging. Finally, the white parts are supposedly flexible carbon fiber intended for blocking and giving hits in a fight. The amount of thought and care that went into such a minute detail is just amazing. Speaking of care, the amount of care they put into the scripts is absolutely insane. Apparently, the initial script for this game had over 800,000 words. Even though not all of it made it into the game, they definitely used it to its fullest. Almost every line said by Peter has two different versions. One to be when he's just chilling and talking, and another when he's swinging around and exerting himself. Speaking of Peter, I love him in this game. I won't get too far into it because I don't want to discuss the story, but I will say that for one, he's really funny sometimes, and actually had me laughing at some points. They also just knew how to write him. They thought all the best Spider-Man stories revolved around Peter struggling with being Peter Parker and Spider-Man at the same time, and they ran with that idea. Okay, so final verdict. Honestly, I thought this game was pretty average. I wouldn't really recommend it unless you're a huge Spider-Man fan. Like, huge. Don't want to miss out on anything. Psych! This game is absolutely amazing for Spider-Man fans and a lot of different types of gamers. If you have a PS4 or PS5, give this game a shot. I beg you. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. For me, this game was the perfect game to start my journey with on the PlayStation 4. It made me the happiest I had been in a really long time, without question. So, if you guys at Insomniac Games are for some reason watching my video, A, that's awesome, and B, thank you for making this amazing, beautiful masterpiece that us humans did not deserve. Alright guys, that's the video. I really hope you liked it because this video was a major emotional flashback for me. If you guys did like the video, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and smack the bell so you know when my next video comes out. Also, if you want to follow the Instagram at Back to the Break Gaming or join the Discord, that would also be great. With all that said, see ya.